Right, Glen Jennings. Where do we start, mate? What a couple of weeks.
How about I just have a little nap here in the warm on a windy, cold day in Vegas? But
Why don't we start with Liam Wilson? He's got a massive fight
Yes.
coming up against Oscar Valdez. Your thoughts on that?
it's a big, big fight. I mean, this is an elite level fight for Liam, and he's going back into the Lions' den where he should have been able to bring the belt home after Navarrete, but the kid doesn't want it any other way. He wants to go back there and prove a point and correct some wrongs from the past. And I believe that the camp we've had and the sparring we had, which was just first class, everything's fallen into place beautifully, and we're only now 5 or 6 days away for Liam. So I expect that he'll come home Saturday, back to Vegas to watch Tim's fight with a belt, interim belt in hand.
A lot of talk about that Navarrete fight, and do you dwell on it? Do you learn from it? How do you look back on that fight, and what do you hope Liam takes from it?
We're a very professional group, and of course you learn from everything that gets rolled out in front of you that doesn't go your way. And there were things that happened that we wish didn't, and there were some procedures that we've put into place to make sure it doesn't happen again. And of course, we just move forward. We are 100% focused on Valdez. Navarrete's in our rear vision mirror, but we've taken a lot of lessons from it.
The Valdez fight, there was talk it could be for a belt, interim or the full belt. Any update on that?
Look, as far as we know as of today, it'll be an interim belt. Navarrete has taken the option to move up a weight class, and that fight will be in the first week of May. And from there, he gets a very short period of time to make a decision on which belt, should he win, of course, which belt he decides to keep. It's our understanding he'll stay up there, which means that Liam would be the interim champ. And if the WBO follow the same order they did with Tim, there's a very real chance Liam could be full champion middle of May.
So what's sort of the Liam wins this fight? What are the fights you'd look to make for him moving forward?
Oh, look, in terms of who, that's an interesting one. Couple of options there. If it ends up remaining as an interim belt, that changes the view. But should Liam be made full champion, then we have the option of looking at the other champion holders across the divisions, across the commissions, and potentially go straight into trying to unify. So if you follow the WBO Tim path, it's very similar. Not saying that will be the case, but that's what we look at. As far as who it'll be, can't say. Who knows who's going to be there in May or June or July. So rest assured, when he wins that belt this Saturday night, the next discussion after that will be two plans, interim or full champ, as to where we go.
Liam spoke about everything around him has improved. You're managing him. This house here in Vegas, the cooking. Yeah. How much of an impact does that make on a fighter? Everything that's around the athlete.
I think it's critical at this level. If the team doesn't click and the team doesn't create the perfect atmosphere and environment for your fighter, you're leaving him underdone. So our job as a group, and it's only a very small group as you can see, is to make sure that all the distractions and all the stuff that's non-boxing gets taken care of, and he can focus solely on his job, which is to win that fight. When you look at the sparring that we arranged, we had a Joseph Mercado, who's a terrific fighter. He looks like Oscar Valdez. He fights like him, and he done just the most. We couldn't have asked for a better sparring preparation. Liam's weight's great, his health's great, his mental position's great. So right now, it's Sunday here, so we're only 6 days away. We've ticked off all the boxes. So the boys will head to Arizona tomorrow, get acclimatised there, and roll into fight week, and then the fight's on Friday night. So it's all coming, mate, and all the work's actually been done now. It's just now a matter of progressing along through the media and the fight week and getting him in the ring in 100% condition.
And a mad dash for you over to Arizona, back for Tim's fight. How are you managing all that?
It's been interesting having two camps run parallel side by side. Wilson's camp here and the Tszyu camp's literally 5 minutes away. We're all in Henderson. We're all in the same gym. It's been a wonderful group experience whilst they train on their own, but to have each other supporting each other's been terrific. I think it's been great for Liam too to see firsthand how the Tszyu boys go about things, and it's all about maturity and experience and coming out of this camp better than the next one and always improving. So for me, it is a stretch. It's a lot of work to do two and have two lots of logistics and running side by side. But if you look at it for what it is, you can't complain about that problem. It's great to have two of my fighters in world title fights 24 hours apart. And the private jet, that's a nice bonus from No Limits, because Matty said to me, don't worry, mate, we'll organise that and you'll be coming with us. And I said, that's perfect. So, yeah, I'm happy with that.
Beauty. Well, I think we're going to drive over, so we'll look at you in the air when you're on your way. Tszyu, what a 10, 12 days. How did you react to the news that Keith had withdrawn from the fight?
It was a week ago in a few hours. It was about 6 o'clock on the Sunday night. Matt rang me and it was a very sombre phone call. Something we were a bit accustomed to be honest, between Matt and myself, is the dreaded news that our opponents pulled out. I just said, is this for real? He said, yeah, it is. So no real emotion, just disappointment knowing what all the work that's gone in. But I said, okay, I'm going to go straight to Tim. So I jumped in the car, went to Tim's, and him and Igor grabbed him to the side and said, hey, guys, got some bad news. Thurman's out. And Tim just looked at me and said, serious? And I said, yeah, it is, mate. And I said, but there is an option that we've opened up to an opportunity for Fundora to step up. And it was just an option at that stage. And Tim looked at me and said, make it happen. And within about 30 seconds, I was talking to Igor. Tim's already watching Sebastian Fundora on his phone, which sort of told me, I was there probably 3 minutes, told me that Tim's already made the switch. And that's who he is. He's a very special talent when it comes to dealing with awkward situations such as that. And so I left them, and that was, Matty and I then went literally right through the night, tagging, trying to work out how we make it happen. We got to a good point, then it fell over. We got to another good point, fell over. We finally got to the point it was done. WBC came in during the night and presented the WBC opportunity to be a unified champ. So there was so much going on. There was arms and legs growing everywhere. But I've got to say, a full kudos to Matt Rose. He done brilliantly to get that over the line in a period of about 12 hours. So the next morning, after no sleep, I went round and got hold of Tim early and I said, the deal's done, and he couldn't believe it. And I said, and also in addition to that, during the course of the night, through Eric, our American coach down at Split T Boxing, I rang Eric. I can't remember what time it was. It was late because I know his first call to New York was about 1 a.m. And we had two. We initially went on a little worldwide search for 6.5-footers, southpaws. There's not many, surprisingly. But then we had to try and find, and it just came to be that the two boys we got, 6'4" and 6'3", one out of Baltimore, one out of Detroit. We had them on a flight the next morning. So that was Monday. They arrived Monday afternoon and they sparred Tuesday. So it was pretty much like, wow. We didn't even have time to enjoy the fact that what we'd just achieved. It was pretty amazing. A bit of a miracle, really, in boxing today to turn a fight around like that. And then there's the reality sinks in. Wow, Tim's going from 5'8" Keith Thurman orthodox to 6'6" Sebastian Fundora southpaw. But I got to say, it didn't bother me, it didn't worry me, because I know who Tim is and the faith that I have in Tim. And literally the next day in the gym, Thurman was a memory in the rear vision mirror, and it was 100% focus. And the first sparring session showed me that Tszyu, there's nothing that this kid can't do.
Yeah. Thurman's got a massive profile here in the States, so a win against him would have boosted Tim's profile. But given this fight's a unification, this is almost a bigger fight.
Yeah, it's turned that way. Keep in mind, when I told Tim, the option was just another fight. There was no discussion about belts, no discussion about WBC, and no discussion about unification. So we were prepared just to roll into just a copy of the Thurman fight, which is a catchweight fight for none of the belts. And that quickly changed over the course of that night. So out of a real shitty day, we got this amazing outcome. And it wasn't planned. It's no credit to anyone, apart from the fact that circumstances came through and Matt Rose done an amazing job. And we worked right through the night to get it done. But we came out the other side with, wow, a unification fight, a unified champ, 2 belts, and within a couple of days, Terence Crawford came into the mix. And so the first 2 days, the Monday, Tuesday, and say the Wednesday of last week, was a lot of talk about Fundora and Tszyu and what's the better fight? Is it tougher than Thurman? Yes, it's more awkward, no doubt. Is it tougher? I'm not so sure. Flip of a coin. And then we get the notification from the WBO that Terence Crawford has applied and been approved as Tim's mandatory, or as the winner's mandatory, which is Tim's mandatory. And so suddenly this thing grew arms and legs. And the last couple of days, it's Sunday now, the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, it's just gone from being a good 154 clash to being almost a super fight because Crawford has now put his hand up, which means technically they can try to enforce their mandatory 5 days after the fight. We have to start negotiating. But there's a plan in place, I can assure you. I won't discuss it now, but Matt Rose and I have a plan in place to make sure that we get the very, very best outcomes for Tim. And so the Crawford thing will be discussed straight after the fight. We're talking about that tonight. It's just super exciting, man. It's hard to imagine that in 6 years we've gone from debut for Tim Tszyu to literally being called out by the pound for pound best in the world. It's like, man, there's nothing higher.
Is that a fight that could potentially happen in Australia? Is that been talked about? You don't have to go into it too much, but
I don't know, mate. I think it probably warrants a Vegas fight, but anything's possible. Anything's possible, and that's really not in my lane. That's Matty Rose's gig, and I allow. It's my job to do certain things, and it's Matt's job to do certain things. So that'll be his call, and we'll certainly have a lot of discussion about it. I know Tim is very much settled into the American style now, and the camps have been brilliant, and we've got that down to a science now. So I would think it'd be here, if you ask me, but it really doesn't matter. It's going to be at a crazy stadium somewhere, and if we can't do it at home, then the Aussies will get to watch it on Fox anyway.
And Tim isn't just there to make up the numbers against Crawford. He thinks he can beat Crawford.
Look, the boxing world will say Crawford's too good for Tszyu. Everyone said that up to date. 25 fights, they've all said it. So we believe that Tim Tszyu and Terence Crawford and his people believe Tim Tszyu is the best 154 in the world. There's credit and stock behind that. That's not talk and making up numbers. So we believe that given the opportunity for Tim to fight Terence Crawford, we'll win that fight. There's no doubt in this camp. There's no doubt in our team, and there's no doubt in our promoters. We're not here for any other reason than to take everything.
Now, Nikita Tszyu, the sweepstakes for his opponent seems to be dwindling by the minute. What's the latest there? When can we expect Nikita? Obviously, there was a late April date. Is that still the option?
Yes, we'll make the late April date. I've got a fallback position with an American fighter that we can go to, which will be a great fight. But Matt's only just arrived, and we haven't had that opportunity to sit yet. But by the end of tonight, I think we'll either have Nikita a locked-in opponent, or we'll just continue the search for maybe another few days, because we are coming to that line in the sand. But yeah, I expect Australia will see Nikita Tszyu hopefully in Sydney, late April. He's been sparring with the League of Nations, we call them over here, because it's brilliant. Nikita's been sparring Uzbekistan, Mexico, United States, France. All these guys are great level fighters, and for Nikita to get that maturity and experience and live the camp life, it's only going to make him a better fighter. So I'm very hopeful, having seen what we've achieved so far, that all three boys go home better, and that's all we hope for every time we fight, come out the other side better, and they all go home healthy, and we just keep on moving forward.